Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Lynn Wire, award-winning author of Steamy Small Town and Spicy Dark Romance, and your host for this episode of Here for the Romance. I'm so excited to welcome author Jill Sorenson to the podcast today. Jill is a diehard romance fan and the dynamic author of more than 20 romance novels. She's been featured twice in Cosmopolitan Magazine. Her books have received starred reviews from Booklist, Library Journal, and Publishers Weekly, and she's written romantic suspense for Random House, HQN, and Harlequin. Now she's making a big splash with Tule Publishing in Western contemporary romance. Jill, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast with me today.
Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
So, if a new reader picked up one of your books today, what would they expect?
So I've been writing romantic suspense for about 20 years now. So all of my books have the suspense element. It's mostly romance because I'm a romance girl. I've been a romance reader for a really long time, and I love the development of the relationship. But my books also have at least a little bit of danger and suspense. And so there's sometimes a mystery to solve or a danger to escape. And um, even my latest series with Tule Publishing
Oh, is it Tule? I
has
am so sorry. I said
no,
Tule.
I say it that way in my
Yeah.
mind too, because that's how it looks to me. It's Tule. So I was saying it Tool, and then I talked with Jane Porter, who's the founder, and she pronounced it Thule. And I was like, wow, I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time. So I think
Please
everyone
apologize
does.
to Jane for that. It's Tule. Okay.
So my new series is it's called the His to Protect series, and it has less suspense than most of my other books. So I would say it's about 75% romance, and I call it contemporary romance. But there's enough of a danger element that it counts as romantic suspense also. So any book of mine will have at least a little bit of suspense. I try to write strong female characters. So that's another thing that
Must.
you can
Yeah.
expect in my books, and men who are protective. So the series is called His to Protect. There's always a protective hero in there.
Yeah. I love the protective MMCs. So, speaking of protective MMCs, what elements must be present for a story to truly feel like a cowboy romance? Because, the cowboys are strong, rugged, protective. So, what other things have to, that you are like must includes for you in your stories?
You know, I'm new to cowboy romance. So this is my first series where I've had cowboy characters, and I don't know if this is kind of blurry,
Mhm.
but
Oh,
um, if I blur my background, I get maybe if I
there we
okay.
go. Yeah, if you stick it in front of
So,
your face and just hold it there, it'll,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
because
I'll do
it's
that.
detecting your face,
So, Cowboy's Last Stand is the first in the series, and the second book is called Sheriff's Honor.
which is
And
what I read. Yeah.
yes, so I'm new to cowboy romance, and I grew up watching a movie called Urban Cowboy. And it's an old movie with John Travolta, and the point of the movie is kind of like
Yeah.
he's not a real cowboy. He's
Yes.
just putting on the cowboy style. He lives in the city. He goes and like does line dancing, and so
I've seen the movie, yes.
so it's about a cowboy with a little more style over
Mhm.
substance. So I think that really anything goes with a cowboy romance. You can
Yeah.
absolutely have a cowboy romance where it's characters that meet and they go line dancing or they ride the mechanical bull, and it's a style thing, and that's totally fun and valid too. But I think for most cowboy romances, it's about the profession, and there's a ranching background, there's a hero or heroine that have grown up in that lifestyle, and it's about being hardworking, outdoorsy, rugged. and really, working with horses and cattle and having either that as a background, a family background, or as a current profession.
So I'm going to diverge a little bit. So do you think because cowboy is along with hockey and then the romanticy are like huge, huge, huge right now. But do and cowboy's been around forever. It's one of the evergreen, tropes. But do you think it
Right.
really got a kick in the butt because of like Yellowstone? Things like that. Because like
Absolutely.
MC Club romances really took off because of oh God, I'm completely losing the name of the show. You know
Sons
which one
of
I'm talking about.
Anarchy.
Thank you, Sons of
Oh yeah,
Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy.
So do you think
Yeah,
it's kind of like the same
I
thing?
wrote a rom I think it is. And I wrote a motorcycle club romance series also about, 10 years ago when that was really popular. So
Yeah,
I do think that sometimes what's popular in other forms of media are also popular in
kind of
romance,
trickles down
but
into the book world. Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't match up. And something that's super popular on TV, it doesn't work in book form. So it depends, but I do think all of those Taylor Sheridan series that are so
Really?
popular
Yeah.
are affecting cowboy romance and helping give it another boost. But like you said, it's so evergreen. It's just
Yes.
always popular.
Yes. Because I remember reading Linda Howard's cowboy romances that she wrote. And, that was like Yonkers. And I hate when I show
Yes.
my age when I talk about the stuff that I used to read. But yeah, I
No,
mean, it's just been there. Yeah.
I've been reading romance forever, so it's yeah, this type of romance has been around since I actually really geeked out on this topic and I researched like the first cowboy romances. So it goes back even farther before I ever started reading romance.
I mean, because the Westerns and the penny, in the penny Westerns, or
Hmm.
were they penny Westerns or dime Westerns? It was like way back when, or nickel Westerns. It was something like that.
Yes, it's
Anyway,
been
sorry.
around forever. That's
So,
okay.
how do you make your cowboy heroes feel fresh and not stereotypical? Because, authors, have to regurgitate, certain tropes and certain themes and certain motifs and things like that. So, how do you keep yours fresh among everyone else's?
So this comes up in romantic suspense, and I think any genre of romance that you write, how do you keep it fresh? Because there are so many books out there, and you want to create a story that is familiar enough that readers are like, I really loved that Linda Howard series, and now I want to read something just like that. So readers are looking for something familiar, but they don't want to be bored and read the same thing over and over again. So, one of the things I've always done in my romantic suspense books is I try to make realistic characters who aren't over the top wealthy. They aren't like some of the Yellowstone series. It's about this super wealthy family and people that it's an interesting story, but it's also about a life of people that I don't relate to necessarily because I don't know a lot of millionaires and
Mhm.
billionaires. So I think I just try to keep it down to earth and write about regular folks, people that I might know in my everyday life. And then I also like to give my characters backstories where they have some kind of vulnerability or flaw that's not the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
So, one of my favorite characters of all time is Indiana Jones, and he has a very famous fear of snakes. And it's funny and it's part of his character. And so I have I try to think of that like what is the character afraid of or what is their flaw that they need to overcome. And for the first book in my series, the hero, it has a phobia about being indoors and cannot sleep indoors. Just loves to sleep outdoors, go camping and stuff, and just has that
Book one?
terrible phobia. of being indoors and being trapped indoors. So that's from book one. So
Okay.
that's kind of a quirky character trait that I incorporated that I haven't read in very many other novels. I I also I wrote a book once where the hero was an ice road trucker, and I haven't read very many romances where the hero is a trucker. So I just try to keep it fresh and interesting with different professions and different flaws.
So, how do you write your heroines who can hold their own in a rugged, traditionally male-dominated setting? Because, you had mentioned you're very much like me. I have to have strong FMCs. So, how do you keep
Mhm.
them strong in such a presence of masculinity that the cowboy romance represents?
Yes. So I think this is where my romantic suspense background helps me because a romantic suspense heroine is usually a strong, formidable character in her own right. So maybe, you know, 30, 40 years ago, the damsel in distress trope was very popular, and it comes and goes. That may be one of those evergreen things where I know there are all sorts of things popular right now, like stalker romances are popular. But for the most part, in romantic suspense, the heroine does not need to be rescued by the hero, or she has a enforcement background, and she is a partner to the hero instead of someone who needs to be rescued or can't think for herself. So in romantic suspense, readers will definitely complain. They will call your character TSTL, which is too stupid to live, if she makes silly decisions. So I just thought about that when I was creating the heroines for this series, because the many readers read for the hero. And so the hero does take center stage a lot, and he's a strong guy, and um he's a tough guy. He's got a big personality, and then you want the heroine to speak up for herself and hold her own and not just be someone who's waiting for a man to come along.
Damsel in
So
distress
she
syndrome, yeah.
has Yes, so she has other things going on in her life. Like I have my first heroine for my cowboy series. She's a single mom. She's raising her son. She's got two jobs. She doesn't have a lot of time to date. And so she's not really waiting for a man to come along. The heroine in Sheriff's Honor is actually kind of more of a cowboy than any of the other characters because she's a ranch worker and she's the hardest working character in this whole series. And so, and she's got her dogs that she takes care of, and she has a lot of background and a vibrant life outside of the relationship. Also, I think I shy away from writing characters who are really sheltered or innocent. I would say that most of my heroines aren't like perfect angels types. Just like how I try to give the heroes realistic flaws, I
Yeah.
write heroines who are a little more seasoned. They've been through stuff.
Lived,
They
yeah.
they might have gone through a divorce or a bad relationship, and so that adds to their inner strength.
So, was you had kind of touched on this when we first started chatting. So, what kind of emotional wounds or backstories do you love to give your characters? Because, you know, I know when I write, there's certain things that I kind of gravitate towards, even though, the wound may be different. It's kind of in a sphere that has a commonality to it. Do you have something like that that kind of gravitate more towards for your characters?
I, I think I do. And I think that what I like to do, especially with male characters, is have them. I love a wounded hero. So emotional wounds, physical wounds. a lot of backstory. I do tend to write characters, both female and male, that they bring some baggage to the relationship. So, but I really love a hero who has a physical wound and an emotional wound, and they're related. So he might be recovering physically, but also have some emotional work to do related to
Yeah.
the an accident or a gunshot wound
Mhm.
or the death of a family member. So, in Sheriff's Honor, the hero, Wade Hendricks, he's not recovering from a physical wound. The other two heroes in this series are. So, but he has such a lot of family baggage, and he's coming to the story. In the first book, his brother died. And then in the second book, that's really Wade's story, Sheriff's Honor, he's dealing with the fallout of his brother's death and trying to reconcile his relationship with his mother. So all of those things, the emotional wounds and the physical wounds, if I can tie them together, I think that makes for a richer story. And I just love a wounded hero either way, any kind.
So, what is your approach to writing intimacy, both emotional and physical, in your books?
So for intimacy, all of my books tend to have sexy scenes. So that's one thing that when you pick up a Jill Sorenson book, there's going to be love scenes and details and everything is described. So that's something I've always incorporated in my books. And I've actually been thinking about that lately because I have this new favorite author I've been reading. Catherine Center is one of my favorite new authors. And I've been really enjoying her books, and I've noticed that there are no love scenes, nothing whatsoever. And I've always been very sex positive and I
Yeah,
want to show that side of the relationship. I think it's important. But this new author, my new favorite, she's not brand new, but it's shown me that you can write a romance with no sex scenes at all. And as long as the emotional beats are there and you make a
that
satisfying
connection that
romance,
lingers. Yeah,
that's all you need. So I'm not saying sex scenes are unnecessary. I'm just saying the important part is the emotion. And so
yeah.
that's how I approach intimate scenes. And I also think they need to be specific to the character. So the way the characters dress, the way, like I usually give my characters a specific scent, like maybe the heroine,
Me too.
she
Yeah.
she smells like cupcakes or she likes this
Yes.
specific perfume. So including all of those sensory details, I think can make an intimate scene seem more real to the
Realistic.
story.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like a cookie cutter thing where you could just take the scene and plop it into any other novel. It should
Yeah.
be
To
true to
have two
those
other
characters.
completely different characters do the same thing. I absolutely get that. Yeah.
Yeah, the way they do everything should be unique to
Unique to
those two
the.
characters.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's excellent. Makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So how important is the setting to your stories, and how do you make those settings feel immersive? Um, because in a second we'll get to Sheriff's Honor because I read that, and so there was a very specific setting, and the details and things like that. So how important is that to you? Because you said you've never written a cowboy romance before until these. So did you actually travel? Uh, do lots of research or
Yes.
yeah.
So setting is huge to me because it's usually how I begin. I think about where the story is, and then I start to think about what happens and who the characters are. So I usually start with setting, and this series was more difficult for me in terms of setting because I live in California I don't live in Texas, and the story takes place in Texas. So I've been to Texas, I have family in Texas, but I haven't been to the specific area where this story takes place. So for me, I just did a ton of research.
Google Earth
And
is your best friend.
I love
Fly
to
by.
do like look at pictures and look at maps. And I have so many maps open with driving directions between this location and that location. Because even though I'm fictionalizing the setting, I base it on somewhere in real life. So I just really like to see things how they really are, as part of my research process. And then I want to take fictional liberties. So I take a real setting and I'll rename it and I'll wave my
Stuff in.
magic and do
Yep.
whatever I like to that setting.
You and I are
But
twinsies in that. Yeah.
but I do like to begin with real research and find out what is how big is the city that I'm envisioning and what kind of restaurants do they have there and all of those things that if you're not there in person, you can be there online and look. So most of my other books are set in California. So those settings have been a little bit easier because I
Mm.
can actually visit, and it's just a short drive to go to the Anza Borrego Desert if I have a book that was set there, or if I have a book that's set in Oceanside at the beach. It's a 30-minute drive for me to go there. So
You get to go to the desert, you get to go to the mountains, you get to go to the beach.
that's the great thing about living in California is
California.
that there's all those different types of, you have the desert, mountains,
Mhm.
beach, and city. And so it's very varied here. But for me, I want the place to seem real, even if it's fictionalized and it's a place that I've taken and created and made my own.
So are you like me? Let me know if this kind of hits a point because I'm like you. I took real settings. I'm from North Carolina. A lot of my books are based in North Carolina, but it's like I want to have a warehouse here and I want to have something here and I want to have like this lake over here. And so, okay,
Yes,
fictional town is that how you go about it? It's like you want specific things, and so you base it
yes.
on something real, but then you create it your own.
That's absolutely it.
Okay.
And my first book, Cowboy's Last Stand, the name of the um, place where they live, the city is called, it's town, it's a small town. It's called Last Chance. So that book is set in Last Chance. Sheriff's Honor is set in the same general area, but a different town. And that town is Lost Lake. And then the third book is also set in Lost Lake. And none of these places exist, but similar places exist in Texas. And the third book in the series, which is coming out this month, is called Last Man Standing. And it's set at a cabin on the shore of the lake. And I really had to stretch myself because I couldn't find a similar place with like cabins and the setting that I wanted and a campground. So I had to just kind of make it up from scratch. And that's actually more difficult for me. That's why I look for actual places online because it's easier to look at. I I, I think my imagination tends towards like I can picture the dialogue, like I can hear it. And I can, if there's a fight scene, I can imagine that really well. But the background details, I think
Really?
it's easier for me to look than to recreate it from
Okay,
scratch in my own head.
that's where we're opposite then.
Everybody's
100%.
different.
Yeah. So, why do you think cowboy romance continues to be so popular? Like we were talking about how it's an evergreen. It just lasts and readers eat it up.
I think just cowboys are hot. Like
Hmm.
women like that type. And they're hardworking, which I think is a lot of the appeal. They they they're physical, they get the job done. And I think
Double
cowboys tend
entendre
to,
intended.
yes, they they get the job done. They're also maybe the strong silent type,
Mm,
which I think can have an
love
appeal
a
also.
broody, quiet guy. Yeah.
And also, I mean, we had quite a long time where office romances and billionaire romances were so popular for so
Yes.
long. And I think these things all have cycles. So maybe
Yeah.
billionaire romances aren't as popular as they used to be, and readers are longing to kind of get out of the city, get out of the office, go back to basics, and
Yeah.
have an outdoor setting with a rugged type.
So, are there any trends in cowboy romance that you really love or that you're really tired of?
I think there's a cover style that I'm really liking right now. So it has nothing to do really with what's
Is it kind of
inside the
that Art
book.
Deco that's all over the place? Which
Well,
style?
I call it a pulp style.
That's what I'm
And so
thinking. Yep.
it's kind of like a comic book
Yeah.
cover looking. So it's painted or artistic
Mm,
instead of a photograph or just like some object on the cover or something kind of vague.
yeah.
So I do like that style. I like the artisticness of it. And I also think I'm really into romantic comedies right now. So I like the trend of more humor and um,
Which we'll talk about with the second book because there was that
yes,
funny scene.
right. So uh, even though cowboy heroes tend to be the strong, silent type, there's also plenty of room for humor in
Mhm.
any kind of romance. So I think that trend toward romantic comedy and something just a little more fun, I love that.
So, anything are you
Also,
tired of?
I can't think of anything I'm tired of. I thought of another thing I'm a fan of,
Okay.
which I think, and this isn't a new trend, but I think there's more diversity now in cowboy romances, which I
Mhm.
really appreciate. And historically, cowboys have come in all colors and men
Yes.
from all walks of life. So I really love that there's the publishing industry is embracing that a little bit more. And there are African American cowboys and Latino cowboys and everything else. So I appreciate that there's more diversity just overall in the genre. But in
Yeah.
part of what makes a cowboy an American icon is the diversity and people working together. So I appreciate that also.
So, how do you explore vulnerability in characters who are often raised to be tough and self-reliant? Sorry, self-reliant.
Yeah, well, I think that's the best way to explore vulnerabilities because people that are tough and rugged and the strong silent type, they're going to be reluctant to share their feelings or um, show vulnerabilities. So if a character is like, "Yay, let's talk about our emotions," there's not as much tension there. There's not as much conflict. So I feel like that's the best character to explore vulnerabilities in because when they do overcome something traumatic or they do open up and talk about their feelings, it feels like a huge hurdle instead of an easy step for them. So anytime a character is really working hard or going above and beyond and going out of their comfort zone, we feel like they're earning the happy ever after more. So I think that makes
Yes,
it really
that makes
resonate
sense.
emotionally and it just makes for a more satisfying story.
So I want to switch over to the book that I read, which is book two, Sheriff's Honor. So in Sheriff's Honor, it's in your His to Protect series. It has a mix of what I consider small town, and then of course cowboy, and then the romantic suspense.
Hmm.
with some elements, like you said, of rom-com that were thrown in. So give readers a brief synopsis of Meredith, who, has an alias name in the book, and
Yes.
Wade's story and why they should add Sheriff's Honor to their TBR.
Okay, well, first of all, I think this is the my editor's favorite of the three.
Okay.
And so that's a plug right there because she's a tough customer. So she really loved Wade's story. And um, basically, it's a coming home story. So Wade Hendricks is a character who had a lot of trouble in the first book in the series. Things didn't go his way, and he's trying to start over, repair his relationship with his mom, and work in a different where he's a sheriff's deputy, so he's working in a different city or
Is it
town.
okay if I say I didn't like the mom at all? She was
Absolutely. Absolutely.
nasty. Oh
She's
my
a real
gosh.
pain. She she was definitely difficult to get along with. She has his mom had just a ton of issues.
Yes.
So some readers loved her. I had one reader
Just the
say
stuff
she
she would
stole the
say to
story.
him, I was like, ah, it's like one of those
Yes.
characters, like, you're a mean girl.
She was definitely a bad mom, which I just felt happy writing about a bad mom because it's not that it's that unusual for characters to have bad moms, but there's so much pressure on women to be perfect mothers. So for me, it was kind of fun to write this
The
character
imperfect mom.
who
Yeah.
was a total mess and a terrible
Oh, she was
mother.
a mess.
Yes.
It's a big hot
And
mess.
but he tried his he
Yeah.
had to try his best to repair their relationship, and they really came a long way. So that's part of the story is Wade's background, and he's just got so much family baggage. And then Meredith,
Mhm.
aka Mary, comes into the story with a lot of secrets of her own.
Yes, she
So
does.
she's mysterious and secretive, and he's a deputy sheriff, and she's the caretaker of this terrible mom. So she's got to deal with the terrible mom also. So they're all in the same household together trying to get along, and Wade suspects her because she does act mysterious and secretive. So there's a lot of tension there between her Meredith's background, Wade's issues with his mother, and everyone trying to find their way in this
Yeah.
place.
So, Sheriff's Honor had, some very funny scenes between Meredith and Wade. There was the one with which I call the accidental groping incident.
Yes,
So, which
yes.
awkwardly hilarious scene between Meredith and Wade was your favorite to write? Because that one had me cracking up.
Oh,
That
I'm so glad. I'm so glad because I laughed all throughout this while I was writing it, and I hope when I'm laughing that character that readers will be laughing too. So I think it's hard to pick a favorite, but I just really loved the dogs in this story. So Meredith has three
starts out
dogs.
with Wade getting bit by this
Yes,
tiny
and
little dog.
Wade tangles with these dogs from the beginning.
Yeah.
So poor Wade, he's going through so much, and he's always getting tangled up with these dogs. There's the Chihuahua
Mhm.
bites him the first time he meets the dog,
And then he
and
gets a shotgun in the face.
yes. So he just poor Wade, he gets put through a lot, but that's why he earns his happy ever after at the end. So I would say I think the scene that you were talking about, the accidental groping, that was really fun to write. But any of the scenes that involve the dogs and Wade trying to navigate not only his relationship with his mother and this mysterious woman, but the three dogs she's brought into the household who are always underfoot and causing trouble and adding to the mayhem. So that I think the dogs were really fun for me to
For
write.
you.
And the Chihuahua is actually based on my dog that I have at home because I have a really old and grumpy Chihuahua. So
Oh,
it was just
okay.
fun for me to put like
To put, yes.
my own dog into the story.
So, in Sheriff's Honor, you also delve into deeper topics such as domestic abuse, Meredith's abusive ex-trip, Wade's discovery about his father's treatment of his mother, um, and also Wade's mother, who struggles with alcoholism and prescription medication dependency. So,
Mhm.
uh, to top that off, Meredith has dyslexia, so you have this whole bag of each character has their own, things that they're dealing with. Readers connect with those types of characters, we've talked about that, who represent real life struggles. So as
Mhm.
an author, do you find the inclusion of realism in the fictional world that to be a very important part of the reading experience? And is that why you know choose all of these elements to include and the traits to include into your characters?
Well, I think for me, I just tend towards realistic characters with a lot of different struggles because they are like people I've known in my real life. I don't know a lot of people who are just like they were they were born happy and they didn't have any problems along the way and life's been an easy breeze for them. I just don't know a lot of people like that. So I'm always kind of surprised when readers talk about my characters and say that how many problems they have. And I've always thought of them as like, well, you should hear about my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do think that it's partly who I interact with in my life and who I have known, but it's also, I think, I like to incorporate realism because I want to believe that good things can happen to real people. So when in a romance novel, when characters are too perfect and everything goes well for them, it gives the impression that those are the only kind of people that can live happily ever after. So, and I believe that people who have struggled the most, they deserve
Their
their
HEA
happy ending the most.
is more it's more profound when they get it.
Yes. So it makes for a satisfying story if they've had real life struggles. And also, I just love the idea that happy endings aren't only for perfect people. So people with disabilities like Meredith, she has dyslexia. She can have her happy ending too. People who are poor or have struggled with alcoholism
Yeah.
or drug abuse, they can get over that and have a happy ending too. So I just love that rehabilitation idea, the redemption and reform, and I really believe in it.
Very good points. So in one word, can you sum up Wade as an MMC?
I'm gonna say protective because it applies to like any book I write. Protective could be the hero. They're all protective.
So, in one word, what about Meredith as an FMC?
For her, I'm going to say independent, and it's the same for every book. They're all independent, and she definitely fits the bill there.
So, what can readers expect from you for the rest of the year? And if you have 2027 planned out, what do you have in store for readers? New releases, book signings, things like that?
Okay. Well, I do have the third book in the series coming out at on June 22nd.
Okay.
So that the series ends. It's just three books for the His to Protect series. So we did a release schedule where the books were kind of released close together, but I really wanted a release schedule based on the season of the story.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Cowboy's Last Stand it was released in the fall. It's a Thanksgiving book. And then Sheriff's Honor is a spring book. So it was released in March. And then the final book in the series, Last Man Standing, is a summer story.
Okay.
So I really love that. It's been kind of a whirlwind, but I really love it when the season of the story matches the season we're in. So I'm really happy about that. I don't have any plans beyond this series. Like I don't have anything in the works that's going to be released coming up soon. I am working on a romantic comedy. Of course, it has a little bit of suspense because I just can't seem to help myself.
Yeah.
But I'm loving the extra humor, just how I put a little bit of extra humor in the cowboy books. I'm putting even more in the current novel that I'm writing, and I'm just loving it. I'm having so much fun with it. So
Are you
hopefully
gonna
I'll
for the new series that you're writing with the rom-com, are you going to try kind of like the closed door thing, or are you going to keep it?
That is such an interesting question because I've really been thinking about that. Like I said, I've been over the moon about Catherine Center's novels. There's no suspense in these books, or very little. There's a little bit of adventure and excitement in some of them, but they're pure romantic comedies. And I, so far, I'm halfway finished with my current work in progress, and there hasn't been a sex scene yet. So maybe I'll try and see how it goes. I don't know. It feels so weird to me, like I'm an alien to even think about writing a romance novel with no sex scenes in it. But who knows? I might do it.
I honestly, I'm going to encourage you to do it. It's I write YA under a
Hmm.
different pen name, and those are like pure YA rom-coms, very clean and everything. And I call them like palate cleansers because
Yes.
after you write like emotional or dark or whatever, I want something light and fluffy.
Yes.
That'll make me happy and smile.
Right.
And so yeah, nothing. It's like maybe one kiss at the end. So yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I'm gonna try it. We'll see. I mean, I'm only in the first half of the book, so during the second half, it could just go nuts and turn into something else. Who knows? I'm leaving it open, but hopefully I'll have some good news to share with readers on that front. I'll finish this and I'll keep my fingers crossed for that book to come out soon.
I'm done. So I'm going to wrap things up, and I'm going to thank you so much for joining me today. You can find Jill's books on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited. I'll provide links to her website and her most recent releases in the description box below. That's the book that I read. And then until next time, everybody, happy reading.